This might be the quietest Ibiza you'll ever see. Ibiza is known for parties, crowds, and summer chaos, but that's not the Ibiza I visited. Outside the high season, when the last parties are over and the tourists have left, a beautiful island remains in peace. With rugged landscapes, empty beaches, and pleasant weather, you get the space to truly explore the island. In this video, I'll take you through the nature, the villages, and show you what the island is like during this time. Welcome to Ibiza. I visited the island at the end of November, and with sunny 20 degrees Celsius days, it was truly the perfect time for me to explore this place. Don't be put off by the weather in the opening shots. I arrive on the island on a cloudy morning, but luckily, this is not a sign of what the week has in store. I'm based in the town of Sant Antoni de Portmany on the northwest coast of the island, which is where I'm staying for the week. After settling into my hotel, I take a walk through the town. On the edge of the town, there's a hill with a small chapel on top. A short climb takes you to this whitewashed building, which has a simple and peaceful atmosphere. From here, you get a nice view over the bay and the town, although in these weather conditions, it's a bit underwhelming. I leave the town behind, and before long, the weather begins to clear and blue skies appear. A few kilometers further north, I head out for a walk to a small rocky bay called Platja de Sa Galera. Tucked away between low cliffs, this is a beautifully secluded part of Ibiza, mostly known by locals. What makes this bay special is a long, narrow, rocky peninsula that stretches about 300 meters into the sea. Walking along this erosion-shaped rock formation gives a great first impression of what the coastline looks like on this side of the island. This circular route to the hidden bay and the rocky peninsula is about 2.5 kilometers long, with roughly 150 meters of elevation gain. Later in the afternoon, I drive a bit further along the north coast. About 20 minutes to the north lies Penya Esbarrada. This viewpoint literally means the broken rock, a name that refers to the rugged, crumbling cliffs. Made mostly of light-colored limestone, these cliffs have been shaped over centuries by wind, sea, and erosion, giving this place its wild character. You won't find beaches or shelter here, and especially outside the season, it feels almost deserted. With the sun setting over the Mediterranean Sea, surrounded by this dramatic coastline, it's the perfect way to end my first day on the island. Day 2 starts once again with a beautiful coastal walk near Sant Antoni de Portmany. The weather is much better this morning than yesterday, with warm sunshine lighting up the coast. On the northern edge of the town lies Aquarium Cap Blanc. Although it is completely closed during the low season, it opens for a few hours on Saturday mornings and can be visited free of charge. The aquarium is located inside a natural cave where seawater flows in and out freely. This allows the fish to live in an environment that is as close as possible to their natural habitat. Most of the species here are fish that live around the island, including small shark species. It's a wonderful place to visit, small-scale and simple, yet with a truly authentic atmosphere. It doesn't feel like a traditional aquarium at all, but rather like a natural place that is directly connected to the sea. After visiting this special spot, I head south to take a walk at one of the westernmost points of the island. From where I park my car, it's about a 1.5-kilometer walk to Torre de Rovira. Along the way, you pass Cala Roja, a small, secluded bay surrounded by broken cliffs, some of which hang partially over the water. This historic watchtower was part of a network of defensive towers on the island. They were built in the 16th and 17th centuries to protect against pirates and attacks from the sea. Although the tower is simple and cannot be climbed, the walk to this spot is still very worthwhile. The cliffs, the sea, and the small islands around make it a remarkable place that played an important role for centuries. From the tower, I continue walking south along the coastline, eventually arriving at Cala Comte, often considered one of the most beautiful beaches on Ibiza. It consists of several small beaches and coves, separated by rocks and low cliffs. While it can get quite busy here in summer, today there are only a handful of people enjoying these little beaches. The total route I walk here is about 5 kilometers and almost entirely flat, making it accessible for almost everyone. I continue driving south along the coast, passing several beautiful viewpoints along the way. After about 10 kilometers, the stunning bay of Cala comes into view. This horseshoe-shaped bay is sheltered by low cliffs, rolling hills, and pine trees, with a wide sandy beach at the far end that makes it a popular spot. Unlike other sandy beaches on the west coast, Cala feels more gentle and accessible thanks to its location. It's a lovely place to pause for a moment, whether on the cliffs overlooking the bay or down on the beach itself, and enjoy the blue water contrasting beautifully with the hilly surroundings. I leave the coastline behind and for the first time head inland. Not far from this bay lies the highest point on the island. Following a rocky road, I reach the top of the mountain, which rises to about 475 meters above sea level. The mountain's name, Sa Talaia, comes from the Catalan word meaning lookout or watchtower. Long before Ibiza became a holiday destination, this spot played an important role as an observation point. On clear days, you can see large parts of the island and the surrounding sea from here, making it a highly strategic location. The very highest point is mostly covered by trees, limiting the views, but if you drive a little further, you reach a more open area that offers a beautiful panoramic view over the island's landscape. I descend once more via the narrow road, heading toward the northern side of the mountain. In the hills just outside the town of Sant de Sa Talaia, there's an abandoned open-air club hidden away. In the 1970s, Festival Club opened as a place where music, nature, and freedom came together, long before the island became known for its large clubs and mass tourism. The complex consists of terraces, stairways, stages, and stone seating, all carved into the landscape. Within just a few years, it grew into a progressive venue where live music and electronic sounds blended with a beautiful natural setting. Eventually, due to noise complaints, stricter regulations, and financial pressure, the club closed its doors. What remains today is an impressive, decaying location where nature and graffiti art are slowly reclaiming this quiet spot high in the hills of the island. I end my day on the south coast at the small beach of Sa Caleta, located not far from the airport. This spot is known not only for its striking deep red cliffs and soil, but also for the rich history it holds. This is where one of the island's oldest archaeological sites is located, a Phoenician settlement founded around 2,700 years ago. It is considered the beginning of permanent settlement on the island. Today, you can still see the remains of houses and walls, alongside more recent structures. Although Spain officially remained neutral during the Second World War, coastal defenses were strengthened at the time. The traces of this period are still clearly visible here, with replicas of cannons recently installed. Fortunately, they were never needed during the war, and the site was abandoned by the military in 1962. The combination of the beautiful beach, the surrounding cliffs, and the rich history of this small stretch of coastline makes it a perfect ending to my second day on the island. Early in the morning, I set out on one of the island's most iconic hikes, the climb to Torre de Savinar on the west coast. Since you have to park the car a short distance from the start, the walk begins along the road before the climb leads you into nature. It takes a little searching to find the right path, but once you do, the stunning views start to appear. After about 1.5 kilometers, you can see the high cliffs, and the short climb to the tower begins. After another 500 meters, the tower comes into view, with the breathtaking island of Eivissa in the background. This massive rock rises steeply out of the sea and has captured imaginations for centuries. The tower, also known as the Pirate Tower, was built in the 18th century as part of the island's coastal defense system. From this strategic point, the guards had a clear view over the sea and the island, which served as a recognizable landmark. The view from here is truly spectacular, and especially during this season, when you can wander around alone, it's a place to relax and appreciate the wild beauty of Ibiza. I retrace my steps a little and begin a steep descent toward the sea, where another remarkable spot awaits, Sa Pedrera de Cala Dort. Here, where the waves crash against the coastline, you can see the remains of an ancient stone quarry. The vertical walls and sharp lines make it clear that this place is not naturally formed. Centuries ago, stones were loosened here using chisels, hammers, and wedges, then transported for various construction projects. Because it's a remote location where overland transport was difficult, the stones were moved by boat. The quarry is also known as Atlantis, which adds an extra layer of mystery. It's a quiet, abandoned spot that offers a completely different perspective on the island's history. After this beautiful walk, I take a break at Platja de Jondal, a large pebble beach that is very popular in summer. But now, almost all the beach bars are closed, and the place is nearly deserted. With this wonderful weather, it's almost hard to believe how quiet it is. For me, it's the perfect spot to rest and soak up the sun before continuing my journey to the southernmost point of the island. South of the airport lies Parc Natural de Sa Salines, a large nature reserve with salt flats, dunes, and lagoons, named after the historic salt production that has taken place here for centuries. I take a walk along the salt pans, which attract countless birds such as flamingos and waders. Following the dunes, I reach the true southern tip, where Torre de Sa Port stands. This tower dates back to the 17th century and was built on a relatively flat stretch of land, offering wide views over the sea. It is one of the best preserved towers along the south coast, with a robust structure. Unfortunately, the tower itself cannot be climbed, but the location and the view make it well worth a visit. Along the cliffs here, you can also find several stone quarries. Although they are unmarked and no information is available, the shapes of the rock formations clearly reveal the island's history once again. The next morning begins gray, with a few drops of rain here and there, but that doesn't dampen the mood. Today, the north coast is on the agenda, and I start with a walk to Cala Aubarca. This is not a classic sandy beach, but a rugged, rocky bay. The coastline on the northern side of the island is the wildest part of Ibiza. To reach this spot, you descend about 200 meters over a distance of roughly 1.5 kilometers. Along the way, you already get a glimpse of what awaits, and once at the bottom, you find yourself surrounded by unspoiled nature and a dramatic rocky coastline. One of the highlights here is Pont den Luc, a natural rock bridge formed by erosion. It's one of the most impressive natural rock formations on the island, especially in this setting, yet still relatively unknown to the wider public. Even though I encountered no one during my visit, it's likely to remain quiet here, even in high season. A short drive inland lies the traditional village of Sant Miquel de Balansat. Part of the village is built on a hill, with the church at its highest point, originally constructed in the 14th century. Back then, it served not only a religious purpose, but also a defensive role against pirate raids from the sea. Walking through this village feels truly timeless. The sense of history and the deep silence you experience here are rare on the island. It's a classic yet underrated place on Ibiza, and definitely worth a visit if you're here. From this inland village, I drive about 5 kilometers toward the coastal town of Port de Sant Miquel. After a short walk from the parking area, I arrive at Torre de Molar, perched high on the cliffs above the sea. This tower was also built in the 18th century and occupies an extremely strategic position. From the cliff edge, you have unobstructed views over the open sea and along a large section of the north coast. From here, the guards were able to spot ships early and communicate with other towers using smoke and fire signals. During my visit to the island, this is the only tower I encountered that was actually open to the public. Via a very narrow staircase, you can climb to the top, where even more impressive views open up over the bay and the surrounding coastline. What makes this tower special is not only the centuries-old structure itself, but above all, the setting in which it stands. The towering cliffs and rugged coastline unfolding below truly show Ibiza at its best. For me, this is one of the most beautiful places to experience the island's raw nature. I also make a short stop at the nearby beach of this small village. Here, it's easy to see how winter is a time for construction and renovation. Many accommodations are closed and being refurbished, something you notice all across the island during the quieter months when tourist numbers are low. I continue my route eastward and make one final stop in the village of Portinatx. A small beach sits at the heart of this village, surrounded by hills and pine forests. Originally a small fishing settlement, Portinatx developed into a tourist destination in the second half of the 20th century. However, large-scale development largely passed it by, allowing it to retain much of its original character compared to other coastal resorts. I end my day at the northernmost point of the island, where I follow a coastal route of about 5 kilometers. At this northern tip, also known as Punta Moscarter, stands the tallest lighthouse in the Balearic Islands. Rising to around 52 meters, it was built in 1978 to replace older lighthouses whose lower light points no longer provided sufficient range for navigation along this rugged coastline. The lighthouse is instantly recognizable by its black and white spiral pattern, which also makes it clearly visible from the sea during daylight hours. While Ibiza is dominated by its historic towers, this lighthouse serves as a striking modern beacon on the island's northern edge. The route continues along the cliffs on the eastern side, where several small coves are hidden below. It's a wonderful place to wander and experience a very different side of Ibiza than the one most people imagine. At the end of the route lies a remarkable structure, Hotel Cala Comte. Built in the 1960s and 1970s, a period when the island began to develop as an international holiday destination, the plan was ambitious. A modern design hotel overlooking one of the most beautiful bays on the island. For various reasons, however, the hotel was never completed or opened, leaving a concrete skeleton behind in the bay. Slowly reclaimed by nature, the site has also become a canvas for graffiti artists. Walking through the remains, it's easy to imagine what it might have been like, with its many rooms, sweeping views, and swimming pools. It's a fascinating place to explore and a quiet reminder of a turning point in the island's history. The 5th day on the island begins, and today is all about visiting the capital. Although the day starts sunny, dark clouds move across the island, but fortunately, the city is spared during my visit. Locally, the capital is also known as Eivissa, and with around 50,000 inhabitants, it is the heart of the island. The city was founded more than 2,500 years ago, when the Phoenicians settled here in a natural harbor. Since then, this place has never been abandoned. The city's rich history is clearly visible. After the Romans and the Moors, Dalt Vila was built in the 16th century. Its name literally means upper town in Catalan. Sitting on an 85-meter-high hill, it forms the historic heart of the city. Construction took place under the rule of King Philip II of Spain and was intended to protect the island from pirates from North Africa, Ottoman incursions, and raids from the sea. Dalt Vila is an enormous fortress, and you can walk along almost the entire stone wall that surrounds it. This offers a remarkable insight into how the city developed over the centuries. Inside the walls, you wander through narrow streets lined with historic buildings from the same period, including Sant Domènec de Vila, a historic church that played an important role in the religious and educational life of the island. It is part of a monastery founded by the Dominican order. Though less well known, it is certainly worth stepping inside. At the highest point of Dalt Vila stands the Catedral de Eivissa, built on the remains of a former Moorish mosque shortly after the Christian reconquest of the island in 1235. Over the centuries, the cathedral was modified several times, resulting in a mix of architectural styles, including Gothic and Baroque elements. In 1782, the island was granted its own diocese, officially making this site the religious center of Ibiza. A small museum next to the cathedral provides more insight into both the church and the diocese. From here, I continue walking along the city walls back toward the starting point. While the city is vibrant and busy in summer, the old town is now extremely quiet. During my visit, only a handful of people are exploring the history and the ancient fortress. For me, this is the perfect moment to experience this impressive structure in complete peace. Elsewhere in the city, you'll also find beautiful buildings, and from the harbor, there's a great view of the fortress above. From this port, you can take a day trip to the island of Formentera to the south, something I skipped during this journey. On the opposite side of the harbor, on a small peninsula, several military structures can be found that were built during the Second World War. Although they were never used, the concrete remains are still clearly visible, quietly recalling a forgotten chapter in the island's history. From here, you also get a lovely view of the city, making this spot well worth a visit. Leaving the city, I drive a short distance along the south coast to begin a climb to Ruinas de Castellar II. The hike is about 1.5 kilometers long, with an elevation gain of roughly 200 meters. Along the way, there are beautiful views over the sea and the coastline, and at the top, you reach the remains of an ancient settlement. This is one of the island's few archaeological sites, where the remains of walls and foundations are believed to date back to Roman times. With the sweeping views and the stone structures, it's strange to imagine that people lived in this remote place around 2,000 years ago. After descending once more, I make a short visit to a completely deserted beach. With the sun setting, it's the perfect place to slow down and end this beautiful day in peace. I start the day not far from where I ended the day before, with a walk to Cala Blanca. This route, covering about 3 kilometers in total, doesn't lead to a beach, but to a rugged, rocky coastline. What makes this walk special is the man-made tunnel carved into the rock face. It was created in the past to make the remote cove accessible and was used, among others, by fishermen. Walking through the tunnel brings you to a small plateau, from where you can descend toward the sea or simply enjoy the wide, open views. This isn't a place where you'll find crowds. It's quiet and mainly popular with hikers, a perfect spot to start the day before heading into the busier atmosphere of nearby Santa Eulària. This town, with around 40,000 inhabitants, is the third largest on the island and is mainly known as one of the quietest and most well-kept areas of Ibiza. Although at this time of year, the whole island feels very peaceful, so it's not immediately noticeable. The town has been inhabited since early times due to the availability of fresh water from a small river. On the highest part of the town, a fortified church was built in the 16th century to protect the population from attacks. As peaceful as it seems now, it was once a rather vulnerable area. It's a lovely town to stroll along the promenade, especially with the beautiful weather. In the small town center, you'll find mainly shops and some interesting artworks that add a special touch to the streetscape. While the other two larger towns, Portmany and Ibiza town, feel very urban, this place has more of a village atmosphere, giving a real sense of calm. There are no large clubs or mass tourism here, even in the busier seasons, which is a great reminder that Ibiza is definitely not just about partying. From this charming town, I continue along the coast and take a walk to Cala Nova. Surrounded by a fairly rocky environment, this spot still has a relatively large sandy beach. In the 1960s and 70s, it was one of the first beaches where a hippie and alternative vibe emerged. That free-spirited atmosphere is still noticeable here, especially outside the high season. In the off-season, it's mainly locals who enjoy the beach and its surroundings, and a boardwalk route provides a beautiful view of the area. At the northeastern tip of the island, I make a stop at Torre de Campanitx, which rises high above the sea. From this tower, part of the island's historic network of watchtowers, you get a view of the small island of Tagomago. This island has been privately owned for decades and, besides the lighthouse, hosts a single luxury villa. Occasionally, it is rented out to international celebrities seeking complete privacy. Landing on the island by boat is prohibited, partly because it is also considered a protected natural area. At the end of the afternoon, I take one last walk to Faro de Punta Grossa. Finding the starting point of the route takes a little searching, as the beginning of the old path has disappeared amidst the buildings. But through a small path between the gardens, a short climb brings you onto the correct trail, and the route truly begins. The narrow path, which in some places has partially collapsed, leads to one of the most beautiful and least accessible spots on the island. It's a truly breathtaking and adventurous walk along the high cliffs, offering stunning views of the rugged coastline. After just over a kilometer, the end point comes into view, the old, abandoned lighthouse. It was built in 1910 and went into operation 2 years later, warning ships of the cliffs and dangerous rock formations jutting out of the water. Its design was typical for the time, functional, simple, and sturdy, able to withstand storms and strong winds. However, due to its remote location, resupplying the lighthouse was difficult. Combined with technological advances, the tower was eventually decommissioned. New lighthouses installed around the coast were equipped with automatic lamps and GPS, making them much more efficient than the old tower. Since 1916, the building has stood abandoned, left to the forces of nature. Today, much of it has fallen into ruin, with only the walls remaining, making it a unique historic monument in an extremely rugged landscape. In my opinion, this is a location that alone would be worth a trip to Ibiza. The beautiful trail, the history of the site, and the breathtaking setting make it truly special. Especially in autumn, when you can wander here alone, it almost feels like walking onto a film set. It's a perfect way to end the day and my journey around the island, bringing my exploration full circle. And then the final day truly arrives. I start with a morning walk from my hotel through Sant Antoni de Portmany, the town where my journey also began. As the second largest town on the island, it's especially known for its nightlife during high season. With its many clubs and the famous Café del Mar Boulevard, it's usually a lively place, but now, a serene calm has settled here as well. For me, this town was the perfect base to explore the island. Ibiza isn't very large, and with a car at your disposal, it's easy to discover the entire island from one location. Today, I visit a few final spots that were still on my list, starting with the so-called Stonehenge of Ibiza on the west coast. Although this artwork is not thousands of years old, it does bear a resemblance to the ancient monument. Installed in early 2014, the artwork consists of a circle of 13 massive basalt columns. Carefully arranged with views over both land and sea, they enhance the sense of timelessness when you visit the site. Nearby, Las Puertas de Can Soleil offers a similar experience. These doors form a kind of room without walls. With engravings and Arabic-inspired motifs, they symbolize a gateway to space, horizon, and reflection. Looking through the doors, you can see the island of Es Vidrà on the horizon, a place I visited earlier on this journey. It's a moment that invites reflection and looking back on yet another beautiful trip to a remarkable island. In the final hours, I drive one last loop around the island and visit the hills in the northeast. Here lies the small inland village of Sant Joan de Labritja, which for centuries relied mainly on agriculture and livestock farming. The landscape here feels different from other inland areas. Rolling green hills make it a pleasure to drive through, with plenty of opportunities to stop and take in the views. I make one final stop at Port de Sa Galera, a remote bay surrounded by untouched nature. From the small pebble beach, you look out over the open horizon. With the calm atmosphere and the sound of waves breaking into the bay, it's a pure and peaceful place to truly bring my journey to an end. I had an image of Ibiza that didn't match what I found here at all, an image of parties, a turbulent nightlife, and overwhelming crowds. But what I truly experienced outside the high season was peace, nature, and charming towns. An Ibiza that many people don't know, and certainly don't expect. Here, you walk through centuries of history, from coastal watchtowers to the impressive Dalt Vila fortress in the capital, but also along empty beaches and abandoned places. Ibiza in the low season is all about silence and space, an island that finally gets to breathe and reveal what is so often overlooked. If you love tranquility and pleasant temperatures, Ibiza is the perfect destination to visit outside the high season. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and let me know if you would visit Ibiza in the low season. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching and see you soon.